Welcome to Monk's Temple. Tonight, we will embark on a gentle journey. Not to a destination, but into presence. We will explore the timeless wisdom of the Buddha. Teachings that have served as a refuge for restless minds, for hearts seeking solace, for over 2,500 years. These are not rules to follow, not doctrines to memorize. They are invitations. Deep, heartfelt invitations to see differently, to soften your grip, and to uncover the deep, quiet well of peace that has been within you, all along. We will walk this path together. Through ancient stories, through simple, profound truths that speak not to the busy, calculating mind, but to the quiet, knowing heart. We will learn to see our thoughts, not as masters, but as passing clouds. And our difficult emotions, not as enemies, but as messengers, inviting us gently toward our own healing. Welcome to Monk's Temple. This is your sanctuary. A space to rest your weary mind and to nourish your spirit. There is nothing you need to do right now. Nothing to fix. No one you need to become. Simply allow these words to wash over you. Let them find a home in the stillness you are cultivating within. If this path of quiet reflection calls to something deep within you, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. To return to this space, whenever you need to remember the peace that is your birthright. For now, just breathe. Let us begin this journey together. Our journey into deep peace begins with a gentle, honest look. A look at the very nature of our own minds. It starts with one of the most foundational teachings. A truth that, once understood, unlocks the door to liberation. This is the teaching on what is often called suffering. But perhaps, a better word, a softer word, might be friction. It is that subtle, pervasive sense of unsatisfactoriness. The quiet feeling that things are never quite right. Never quite perfect. Never quite as they should be. It is the stress we feel when we resist the natural flow of life. When we cling, with all our might, to what is pleasant, and push away, with equal force, what is painful. This friction is not a punishment. It is not a flaw in your character. It is a fundamental part of the human experience, when the mind is untrained. When the heart is closed. By turning toward this friction, not with judgment, but with a soft and curious gaze, we take the first real, authentic step toward a peace that cannot be shaken. There is an old story, from a time when wisdom was passed down through parables. It tells of a young woman named Mara. She lived in a village at the foot of a great, mist-shrouded mountain. Mara was a weaver. And her skill was truly unmatched. She wove tapestries of incredible beauty, their colors as vibrant as the sunrise, their patterns as intricate and delicate as a spider's web glistening with morning dew. People came from all over the kingdom, from distant towns and bustling cities, just to purchase her work. She was celebrated, praised, her name spoken with reverence. Her identity, her entire sense of self-worth, was woven, into every single thread. She believed, with every fiber of her being, I am a great weaver. This is who I am. And for a time, this belief brought her a profound, glowing happiness. But with her success, came a quiet, whispering fear. A fear that grew with each new commission. Each new tapestry had to be more beautiful than the last. More intricate. More breathtaking. She would lie awake in the deep of night, her mind racing with designs and doubts, worrying that her inspiration, her gift, would one day simply vanish. The pure, joyful act of creation slowly became tainted. Tainted with the heavy anxiety of expectation. The weight of her own reputation. Then, one fateful day, a royal messenger arrived. His clothes were fine, his bearing solemn. He carried a commission, from the king himself. The monarch wanted a tapestry. But not just any tapestry. He wanted a work that would capture the very essence of his entire kingdom, its deep, ancient forests, its rushing, silver rivers, its diverse, bustling people, its indomitable spirit. It was to be her masterpiece. It was the greatest honor of her life. And it terrified her. Completely. She built a new, larger loom from the finest oak. She bought the most expensive threads, silk that shone like moonlight, gold thread that gleamed like captured sunlight. For weeks, she stood before the empty loom, her hands poised, and then they would tremble. The immensity of the task, the fear of not being perfect, of not living up to the legend she had become, it was a cage. An invisible, suffocating cage she could not escape. Her loom stood empty. A silent, accusing monument to her fear. Her once joyful workshop, filled with the friendly click-clack of the shuttle, became a place of dread. She grew withdrawn. Unhappy. The friction in her mind was a constant, grinding torment. One evening, as the sun began its descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Mara could no longer bear the heavy silence of her workshop. She walked out. She began to climb the mountain path, her steps slow, her heart heavy. She walked until she came to a small, humble hermitage. There lived an old nun, a woman known throughout the region for her quiet, penetrating wisdom. Mara, her voice choked with despair, her eyes downcast, explained her predicament. The commission, the fear, the empty loom, the joy that had turned to dust. The old nun listened. She listened with a patience that seemed as deep as the mountain itself. Her eyes were as calm and clear as a forest pool undisturbed by wind. When Mara had finished, poured out her anguish, the nun did not offer advice. She did not offer solutions or clever techniques. She simply said, her voice soft as rustling leaves, "Come. Let us watch the sunset." They sat together on a smooth, sun-warmed rock overlooking the vast valley. The sky was a living canvas. Brilliant oranges melted into deep purples, which softened into gentle pinks. It was breathtakingly beautiful. A masterpiece of light and color that was changing, evolving, with every single passing second. No one expects the sunset to hold still, the nun said, her gaze fixed on the horizon. Its beauty is in its vanishing. It does not worry about whether tonight's display is as beautiful as last night's. It does not compare itself to the dawn. It simply is. She then turned. She looked at Mara with a kindness so profound it felt like a physical warmth. "You are not the weaver," she said. "You are the loom. Life is the weaver. Joy, fear, inspiration, emptiness, these are all just threads. Threads of different colors. You have been trying to control the threads. To weave only with the threads of gold, of success. But a tapestry, with only one color, has no depth. No truth. Your problem is not that you are afraid, dear one. The problem is that you believe you should not be." Mara sat very still. She felt the truth of these words, not in her mind, but deep within her bones. A tension she had carried for years, in her shoulders, in her jaw, began to release. To melt away. She was not her success. She was not her fear. She was the space, the strong, silent, spacious loom, through which these things moved. She was the awareness that witnessed it all. She walked back down the mountain path under a sky now filled with 1,000,000 brilliant stars. The next morning, she went to her workshop. She took a deep, steadying breath, and she began to weave. She did not try to weave the perfect tapestry for the king. She simply began to weave what was in her heart, that very day. She wove the dark, knotted color of her fear. The rough, jagged texture of her anxiety. But as she wove, she also wove in the deep, forgiving purple of the sunset she had witnessed. And the cool, hopeful silver of the starlight. The tapestry she created, over time, was unlike any she had ever made before. It was not perfect in the way she had once understood the word. But it was honest. It was alive. It had shadow and light, struggle and peace. And in the act of weaving her whole self, not just the pleasant, presentable parts, she found her freedom. Her creative spirit returned, not as a tyrant, but as a friend. Mara's story is our story. The friction, the dukkha, is not the royal commission. It is not the fear of failure itself. It is the clinging. The clinging to an identity, the great weaver. It is the resistance, the violent pushing away, of the full, rich, messy spectrum of our human experience. The Buddha's first noble truth points directly to this. Life, in its very nature, inevitably contains experiences that are unpleasant. Sickness, aging, loss, disappointment, heartache. These are part of the landscape. They are not a mistake. The second noble truth tells us something revolutionary. Our suffering, our deep unease, arises not from these experiences themselves, but from our craving. Our thirst. our desperate desire for reality to be different than it is. Mara was suffering because she was craving to be only the perfect weaver. She was resisting, with all her might, the threads of fear and doubt. She wanted to edit her experience, to present only a polished, flawless final product. This craving is a natural instinct, a deeply conditioned habit of the untrained mind. We are wired, it seems, to chase pleasure and to avoid pain. We build our identities, our castles of self, around our successes and our strengths, and we try to hide, to bury, our vulnerabilities and our perceived flaws. But this is like trying to build a dam in the middle of a mighty, flowing river. The water keeps coming. The pressure just builds and builds. The Buddha's teaching is a radical, gentle invitation. An invitation to stop building the dam. To see, with clear eyes, that our craving, our resistance, is the true source of the pressure we feel. When we chase happiness as a permanent, solid state to be achieved and then held on to, we are destined for disappointment. Why? Because everything is impermanent. Everything changes. When we run from sadness, from grief, we give it more power, more shadow, over us. We make it a monster in the dark. The wisdom, the profound, practical wisdom, lies in turning toward our experience. Not with a grimace, but with a gentle and courageous curiosity. It's about widening our embrace, to include all the threads. The light and the dark. The gold and the rough hemp. This understanding is profoundly empowering. It means that the key to our peace is not in changing the world outside, not in arranging all the circumstances perfectly, but in transforming the relationship, the view, from within. We can't stop the river of life from flowing. We can't command the sunsets. But we can learn to navigate the currents with grace. With wisdom. We can find our balance, not by rigidly resisting the current, but by learning its rhythm, and moving with it. To bring this wisdom into your own life, you don't need to be a master weaver. You don't need to be a monk on a mountaintop. You can start right where you are. In the midst of your daily, ordinary, beautiful, messy experience. The first practice is to simply become an observer. A compassionate observer of the friction in your own mind. When you feel that familiar tightening of anxiety in your chest. That flash of irritation in traffic. That deep pang of disappointment when plans fall apart, try not to immediately get lost in the story. The story of why this is wrong or who is to blame. Instead, pause. Even for just 3 seconds. Take one conscious, deep breath. And just for that moment, step back. Observe the feeling as if you were a gentle scientist, watching a strange, fascinating weather pattern move across the sky of your being. Name it gently, to yourself. Ah, this is frustration. Or, this is the feeling of wanting things to be different. This simple act of naming, of observing, creates a tiny, crucial space of awareness. In that space, you are no longer only the emotion. You are the one who is aware of the emotion. This is the beginning of freedom. The next step is to get curious. Gently curious about the craving underneath. What is the mind thirsting for, right in this moment? If you're sitting in a traffic jam, late for an appointment, the craving is for the traffic to disappear. For reality to bend to your schedule, to your will. If you're hurt by an offhand comment from a friend, the craving is for their words to have been different. For the past, to be rewritten. See if you can identify this underlying desire. Without judging it. See it with the same gentle curiosity you would have for a young child who desperately wants it to be sunny, on a cold, rainy day. This understanding softens the heart. You don't have to fight the craving. You just have to see it for what it is. A natural, but ultimately unskillful, strategy of the mind trying to find safety and happiness. Finally, practice softening your body. Our mental resistance manifests as physical tension. It's a truth we often overlook. When you notice that internal friction, that tightening, scan your body. Is your jaw clenched tight? Are your shoulders hunched up near your ears? Is your stomach in a hard, anxious knot? Consciously, invite these parts of your body to soften. To let go. You can't always think your way out of resistance, but you can often breathe your way through it. As you exhale, imagine the tension in that specific area gently dissolving. Melting away. This is not about forcing relaxation. That is just another form of tension. It is a gentle allowing. A physical expression of letting go. A bodily sigh of release. By practicing in these small, everyday moments, you are retraining your mind. You are teaching your nervous system that it is safe to feel the full spectrum of life. That you don't need to resist reality to be at peace. You are learning, stitch by stitch, breath by breath, to be the loom. Allowing all the threads of life, the joyous, the sorrowful, the mundane, to be woven into the beautiful, imperfect, ever-changing, unique tapestry of your being. Let us pause here, for a moment. A quiet moment of integration. Feel the gentle, steady rhythm of your own breath. A quiet anchor, in the flow of time. Allow your body to soften, releasing any tension you might be holding, even now. Let the edges of your day melt into this quiet space of rest. You have done enough. You have been enough. For now, simply be. If this journey into stillness, into seeing clearly, resonates with you, I invite you to subscribe to Monk's Temple. So we can continue to walk this path together, discovering, remembering, the peace that is always waiting for our gentle return. We continue our journey now, by exploring a truth that is both profoundly simple and radically transformative. It is the teaching of impermanence. Anicca. The universe is in a constant, graceful state of flux. Nothing is static. Not the mightiest mountains, slowly wearing down. Not the distant stars, being born and dying in cosmic time. Not our bodies, cells renewing and fading with each breath. And not our thoughts, which arise and pass like ripples on a pond. Everything that arises will eventually pass away. We often experience this truth as a source of deep anxiety. We fear loss. We grieve change. And we desperately try to hold on to moments of happiness, of love, of connection, as if they were solid objects we could place on a shelf and keep forever. But the Buddha taught that our suffering comes not from the fact of change, but from our resistance to it. Our arguing with it. The teaching of impermanence is not a lament. It is not a sad song about loss. It is a gateway to freedom. When we learn to stop fighting the undeniable flow of life, and instead learn to embrace its dynamic, ever-changing nature, we discover a joy that is deeper, more resilient, more authentic, than any fleeting pleasure. In a green valley, nestled peacefully between two great, ancient mountains, there lived a master potter. Her name was Isara. Her work was renowned, her reputation whispered across the land. Her ceramics were known for their exquisite beauty, their near-perfect, graceful forms. Her bowls, her vases, her cups. They seemed to hum with a quiet, serene life of their own. People would travel for days, along dusty roads, just to acquire one of her pieces. They believed, perhaps, that its perfection would bring a corresponding sense of order and peace to their own homes. A young, eager apprentice named Kale came to study with her. Kale was talented. His hands were clever, his eye was keen. But he was impatient. He was obsessed with a single goal, creating a perfect pot. A pot with no flaws, no imperfections. A masterpiece that would stand as a testament to his skill, a thing of beauty that would last forever. He would work for hours at the wheel, his brow furrowed in fierce concentration. His whole body was tense with the effort of control. But every time, just as he thought he had achieved that elusive perfection, his critical eye would find a tiny flaw. A slight asymmetry, invisible to most. A minuscule bubble in the glaze. A faint, almost ghostly tremor from his own striving hand. In a burst of frustration, he would smash the pot against the stone floor. The crash was a sound of anger and despair. And he would begin again. His workshop floor became littered with the sad, dusty shards of his own impossibly high expectations. One afternoon, after a particularly frustrating session, Kale sat slumped in defeat. He watched as Isara, his master, sat at her wheel. She worked, with a joyful, effortless ease. Her hands moved with the clay as if in a silent, loving dance. She was crafting a beautiful, elegant vase. It was a work of art, even in its wet, unfinished state. But then, as she was lifting it gently from the spinning wheel, her experienced hand slipped. Just a fraction. And a deep, jagged crack appeared down one lovely side of the vase. Kale gasped. His mind immediately thought, ruined. He expected her to be devastated. To sigh, to frown, to discard the piece onto the scrap heap. But Isara simply smiled. A small, knowing smile. She placed the cracked vase carefully on her work table. She took a small, fine brush and a pot of liquid gold, precious, luminous gold lacquer. And instead of discarding the vase, she began to paint. She painted that delicate gold lacquer directly along the line of the crack. She filled the flaw. She traced it. She highlighted it, transforming what was a flaw into a shimmering, beautiful vein of gold. A river of light running through the clay. She then placed the vase in a special part of her studio, a place of honor. And there, alongside it, were dozens of other pieces. Each one uniquely beautiful. And each one, adorned with its own beautiful, golden repair. This was her practice. This was her art. The ancient Japanese art of Kintsugi, the art of embracing breakage and imperfection. Of finding beauty, not in spite of the crack, but because of it. You are trying to create a pot that denies its own nature, Isara said to Kale, her voice full of a warm, maternal kindness. Clay is of the earth. It is fragile by nature. It is meant to change, to age, to crack, to one day return to the dust from which it came. To fight this, is to fight the clay itself. It is to fight life. She picked up the golden-veined vase, cradling it in her hands. A pot's life is a journey of transformation. Its cracks tell the story of that journey. The story of the heat of the kiln that hardened it. The story of the hands that held it, loved it, used it. Perhaps, the story of a fall from a shelf. They are not signs of failure, Kale. They are marks of a life, lived. She gestured gracefully to the vase with its golden seam. This crack has not made the vase less beautiful. It has made it unique. It has given it a story, a history, a soul. True beauty, my dear apprentice, is not the absence of flaws. It is the loving, conscious embrace of them. Kale looked down. He looked at his own pile of broken shards, the sad, sharp remnants of his quest for an impossible, sterile perfection. He had been trying to create something that stood outside of life. Outside of time. Something that would not obey the laws of nature. Isara was showing him how to find beauty, profound beauty, in the very heart of life's fragility. In its impermanence. He slowly, thoughtfully, picked up two of his broken pieces. And for the first time, instead of seeing only failure, he saw an opportunity. A possibility. He began the slow, patient, meditative process of mending. Not to hide the break, but to honor it. To seal it with gold. To make the repair a part of the art. The story of Isara and the cracked pot is a profound metaphor for the teaching of impermanence. We are all, in some way, like Kale, striving for a kind of perfection and permanence that life simply does not offer. We want our bodies to stay forever young, forever healthy. We want our relationships to remain in a state of perpetual, easy harmony. We want our moments of happiness, of triumph, to last forever, frozen in a perfect photograph. And we treat life's inevitable cracks, our illnesses, our heartbreaks, our failures, our losses, as tragedies, as mistakes to be hidden, or overcome, or erased from our story. But the wisdom of Anicca teaches us that these cracks are not mistakes. They are an inevitable and essential part of our journey. They are the very conditions that allow for growth, for depth, for character, for compassion. The Buddha's teaching on impermanence is a call to see life as it truly is. A continuous, dynamic, flowing river of experience. Everything we can perceive with our senses, from our own swirling thoughts and shifting emotions to the vast, distant stars in the night sky, is in a state of constant, graceful transformation. Trying to hold on to any of it is like trying to grasp a handful of flowing river water. The tighter you squeeze your fist, the faster the water slips through your fingers. Our suffering is the tension in that squeeze, the aching in that clenched fist. When we are caught in a difficult emotion, a wave of sadness, a storm of anger, it can feel all-consuming. As if it is a permanent, solid part of our identity. We say, unconsciously, I am sad. As if sadness has replaced our true self, has become who we are. But impermanence reminds us, gently, that this is an illusion. Sadness is a weather pattern. It is a passing cloud, moving through the vast, open, peaceful sky of our awareness. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Always. When we can remember this, we can meet our pain with less fear. We can allow it to be there, to have its moment, knowing that it, like everything else, will change. It will soften. It will transform. It will pass. This understanding also revolutionizes our relationship with joy, with happiness. Instead of clinging to happy moments with a desperate, fearful grip, afraid they will end, we can learn to savor them fully. With a heart of open, grateful appreciation, we can appreciate the warmth of the sun on our skin, without already worrying, in the back of our mind, about the inevitable arrival of clouds. This is the essence of non-attachment. Not a cold detachment, not indifference, but a loving, wholehearted participation in the dance of life, without trying to control the music, to stop the song, or to own the orchestra. This teaching frees us. It frees us from the heavy tyranny of the past. A collection of moments that have already dissolved, like sandcastles before the tide. And it frees us from the gnawing anxiety of the future, a collection of moments that have not yet arisen, mere speculation and story. All we ever truly have is this present moment. This breath. This sensation. This sight, this sound. And this present moment is always fresh. Always new. Always changing. Peace is found in learning to rest in the dynamic, vibrant stillness of the now. How can we integrate this profound understanding of impermanence into the very fabric of our daily lives? The practice is not about a dry, intellectual understanding. It is about direct, felt experience. It begins with the gentle, patient art of paying attention. A simple, yet powerful practice is this: choose one natural phenomenon. One thing from the natural world. And observe it, regularly. It could be a tree outside your window, the moon in the night sky, a houseplant on your desk, a bird that visits your feeder. Make a point to look at it each day. Not just glance, but really see it. Notice the subtle changes. A new leaf slowly unfurling. A flower blooming in glorious color, and then, days later, wilting, petals falling. The way the light hits it differently in the morning, at noon, in the evening. This practice, done consistently, retrains the mind. It teaches the mind, through direct perception, to see change not as an occasional, disruptive event, but as the constant, underlying reality of all existence. Another practice is to become a curious, non-judgmental observer of your own inner world. Sit quietly for just 5 minutes each day. And simply watch. Watch the flow of your thoughts and feelings. Don't try to stop them. Don't try to change them. Don't follow them. Just watch. Imagine you are sitting on the peaceful bank of a wide, calm river. Your thoughts and feelings are like leaves, twigs, bits of blossom, floating by on the current. Some thoughts might be dark and heavy, like waterlogged branches. Others light and fleeting, like autumn leaves. Just watch them arise, linger for a moment in your field of awareness, and then dissolve, float out of sight. Notice that you are not the thoughts. You are the awareness that is watching the thoughts. This practice cultivates a spaciousness within you. A quiet, centered calm that is untouched by the constant churn and change of the mind. You can also practice a gentle, letting go meditation. At the end of your day, find a comfortable position. Take a few deep breaths. And mentally review the events of the day. Not in detail, not to relive drama, but lightly. As you bring each event to mind, a pleasant conversation, a moment of frustration, a task completed, consciously practice, letting it go. You can visualize placing that memory, that feeling, on a broad leaf, and watching it float peacefully away down a quiet stream. Or you can simply say to yourself, softly, this moment is over. I release it. I let it be. This is not about erasing your memories or your experiences. It is about loosening your mental and emotional grip on them. It is a way of acknowledging that the past is complete. It is finished. This practice frees up your energy. It frees you to meet the present moment, the now, with openness, with freshness, with presence. Finally, bring this awareness of impermanence into your interactions with others. When you are with a loved one, a partner, a child, a dear friend, try to be fully present. Put down the phone. quiet the inner commentary. Recognize, in your heart, that this moment, with this person, is unique. It will never come again. Ever. This recognition, this gentle remembering of impermanence, infuses your relationships with a preciousness, a tenderness, that is so often lost when we take things, and people, for granted. When you understand, deep in your bones, that everything and everyone is impermanent, you naturally begin to love more fully, to forgive more easily, to appreciate the profound, incredible gift of sharing this fleeting, beautiful journey with other precious, impermanent beings. You learn, like the master potter Isara, to honor the cracks in yourself and in those you love, not as flaws to be hidden, but as beautiful golden seams. The unique, luminous marks that tell the story of a life, fully, courageously, authentically lived. Let's pause here again, just for a moment. In this space between teachings, take a slow, deep, nourishing breath in. Let the air fill your lungs completely, and then release it with a gentle, audible sigh. A sigh of release. Feel your body sinking, just a little deeper, into the surface that supports it. A chair, a cushion, the floor. Let go of the day that has passed. Let go of the need to be anywhere else, but here. You are here. In this quiet space. And in this moment, that is enough. It is more than enough. We now turn our attention inward, to one of the most subtle, challenging, and ultimately liberating teachings of the Buddha. It is the doctrine of Anatta, not self. This teaching can sound strange at first. It can even sound frightening, for it seems to challenge the very foundation of who we believe we are, the central character in our personal story. We live our lives with a strong, seemingly unshakable sense of I, of me. There seems to be an inner commander, a little person behind our eyes, who is thinking our thoughts, feeling our emotions, making our decisions. A permanent, unchanging self at the center of the universe of our experience. But the Buddha invited us to do something radical. He invited us to look. To sincerely, honestly look for this solid, separate, independent self. To see if we can actually find it. The teaching of not-self is not a denial of your existence. It is not nihilism. It is an invitation. An invitation to discover a far more spacious, interconnected, fluid, and joyful way of being. A way of being free from the heavy, constricting burden of a fixed, limited identity. In a serene monastery known for its silent, contemplative gardens, there lived a monk named Jean. He was diligent. He was devoted. He studied the scriptures late into the night. He sat in meditation for hours each day. But he was plagued by a relentless, cruel inner critic. His mind was a near constant stream of self-judgment. My meditation is not deep enough. I am not as compassionate as the other monks. My mind is too restless. I will never be truly enlightened. This sense of a flawed, inadequate, struggling self, was a heavy, wet cloak he wore day and night. He believed, utterly, that this Gene who was failing, was a solid, real entity. A thing that was fundamentally not good enough. One day, the abbot of the monastery, a wise old master with eyes that saw everything and a heart that forgave everything, called Gene to his simple chambers. He didn't speak of Jin's struggles. Instead, he handed Gene a beautiful, ornate object. It was a small-scale model of a chariot. A masterpiece of miniature craftsmanship, with tiny wheels, a delicate frame, fine details. "Tell me, Gene," the abbot said, his voice quiet. "What is this?" "It is a chariot, master," Gene replied, puzzled. "Are you sure?" the abbot asked, a subtle twinkle in his ancient eyes. He then began, very carefully, to dismantle the model. He removed one of the delicate wheels. He held it up. "Is this wheel the chariot?" "No, master," Gene said. "That is a wheel." The abbot removed the other wheel. "Is this the chariot?" "No." He removed the axle. Then the shafts. Then the decorative canopy. The seat. With each piece, placed gently on the floor, he asked the same question. And each time, Jin's answer was the same. "No, master." Soon, all the individual, separate parts of the chariot lay disassembled on the floor between them. A collection of pieces. The abbot gestured to the pile. "Now, where is the chariot?" Gene stared. He looked at the pieces. He looked at the space where the assembled chariot had been. A look of dawning realization began to soften his worried face. "The chariot," he said slowly, "is not a single thing. It is a temporary collection of parts. Working together. Interdependent. It is a name, a concept, we give to a process. A coming together." The abbot smiled. A deep, knowing, compassionate smile. "And so it is," he said gently, "with the self you are so worried about. The Gene who is not good enough. You look for this I that is failing. But where is he? Is he your body?" He paused, letting the question hang in the air. "Your body is constantly changing. Made of parts, organs, blood, bone, that are not you. Is he your thoughts? Your thoughts are like clouds, appearing and disappearing on their own. Are they you? Is he your feelings? Your feelings are like the weather. Always shifting. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Are they you?" He gestured again to the disassembled parts on the floor. "What you call self, dear Gene, is just like this chariot. It is a collection. A flowing, changing collection of processes. Body. Feelings. Perceptions. Thoughts. Consciousness. We give this collection a name. We weave a story around it, Gene the struggling monk. And then, we mistake that name, that story, for a solid, unchanging, independent thing. He leaned forward slightly, his presence immense and kind. But there is no permanent I sitting in the driver's seat, Gene. There is just the process of life. Unfolding. Moment to moment. Gene sat in stunned, profound silence. The heavy, wet cloak of his self-judgment began to feel lighter. It began to feel like just a cloak. Not his skin. If there was no fixed, failing self, then who was it that was failing? The voice of his inner critic suddenly seemed less powerful. Less substantial. Like the empty, booming pronouncements of a king who rules over no kingdom. He wasn't a failure. He was a process. A life process. And a process cannot fail. It can only unfold. It can only be what it is in each moment. The abbot's lesson to Gene strikes at the very core of the teaching of Anatta. We spend so much of our precious life energy. We spend it constructing, polishing, defending, and worrying about our sense of self. Our identity. We build it from our memories, our accomplishments, our roles, our relationships, our beliefs, our opinions. We then live inside this self-constructed identity, as if it were a fortress. A castle. But this fortress is also a prison. It limits us. It makes us rigid, brittle. It makes us fragile, because any challenge to our identity, a criticism, a failure, a change in status, feels like a threat to our very existence. An attack on the castle walls. The teaching of not self is the key that unlocks the prison door. It reveals that what we take to be a solid, unchanging self is, upon closer, kinder inspection, an illusion. A beautiful, complex, ever-changing, interdependent process. But it is not a static thing. The Buddha identified 5 aspects of this process. He called them the 5 aggregates, or skandhas. These are, form, our physical body, sensation, our raw sensory experiences, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Perception, our mind's labeling and interpretation of those sensations, mental formations, our thoughts, emotions, desires, habits, volitions, and consciousness, the basic awareness of the other 4. He invited us to examine each of these aggregates, to hold them up to the light of inquiry, and to ask, gently, is this permanent? Is this truly me? Is this mine? Can I control this completely? The answer to all these questions is no. Our bodies age, get sick, heal, change. They are not fully under our control. Our feelings are unpredictable, arising based on causes and conditions. Our perceptions can be mistaken. Our thoughts are a chaotic, endless stream, often contradictory. Our consciousness depends on the other aggregates. There is no single, stable, independent entity to be found in any of them. This realization is not a cause for nihilism or despair. It is profoundly liberating. If you are not a fixed identity, then you are not stuck. You are not defined forever by your past mistakes. You are not trapped eternally in your current anxieties or limitations. You are a flowing, changing river, not a stagnant, murky pond. The anxious person you think you are is just a temporary pattern of thoughts and feelings. The person who failed is just a memory, a story. These are not your permanent, unchanging essence. This understanding also revolutionizes our relationships with others. When we stop clinging so tightly to a fixed idea of our own self, we naturally stop imposing fixed, rigid identities on others. We stop putting people in boxes. He is selfish. She is unreliable. They are that way. We begin to see that everyone, just like us, is a complex, changing process. Shaped by countless causes and conditions we cannot see, their genetics, their childhood, their pains, their joys, their fears. This insight is the fertile, rich ground from which true, unconditional compassion grows. We see the shared humanity in others more clearly, and our hearts naturally soften. How can we begin to experience this truth of not-self directly? This is not a concept to be believed on faith. It is a reality to be investigated in the laboratory of your own direct experience. One of the most direct ways is through a practice often called vipassana, or insight meditation. The essence of this practice is to observe the 5 aggregates, in action. Find a comfortable place to sit. For a few minutes, simply bring your awareness to your body. Notice the sensations, the breath moving, the feeling of pressure where you sit, any areas of warmth, coolness, tingling, vibration. Just observe these sensations as changing physical phenomena, without immediately labeling them as my body. See them, simply, as form and sensation, arising and passing in the field of awareness. Then, turn your attention gently to your mind. Watch as thoughts appear. Don't engage with their content. Don't get pulled into the drama. Just notice them as mental events. A thought about the future arises. Note, thinking. A memory from the past arises. Note, remembering. An image appears. Note, imagining. Notice that they come and go on their own. They are not your thoughts in the sense of being commanded by a central I. They are simply mental formations, appearing in consciousness. Do the same with feelings. When a feeling of peace, or restlessness, or boredom arises, note it gently. Peace is here. Restlessness is here. See it as a temporary weather pattern in the mind, not as my feeling. The goal of this practice is not to find something. It is to notice the absence of something. The absence of a solid, independent self, about controlling the show. Owning the experience. You are the spacious awareness, in which the aggregates play. You are not the play itself. Another powerful practice is to question the sense of I. Throughout your day, when the thought arises, I want this, or I am angry, or I need to do that, gently pause. And ask, inwardly, who is this I? Look for it. Can you locate it in your body? Is it in your head? Your chest? Your throat? Can you find it in your thoughts? In your feelings? This gentle, repeated inquiry begins to loosen the unconscious, assumed reality of a fixed self at the helm. You begin to see that I is more of a convenient label. A pronoun we use to organize our experience, rather than an accurate description of a real, findable entity. Finally, practice seeing the interconnectedness of all things. When you eat a piece of fruit, pause for just 5 seconds. Reflect on all the conditions that brought it to you. The sun that fed the tree. The rain that watered it. The soil that nourished it. The farmer who planted, tended, harvested. The workers who packed, transported, sold it. The cook who prepared it. See that the fruit is not a separate thing, but a manifestation, a gift, of the entire universe. Then, apply this same understanding to yourself. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your very language, have been shaped by your parents, your culture, your teachers, your friends. Your body is sustained by the food, water, and air of this planet. Your existence is supported by a society, an economy, an ecosystem. When you see this deep, undeniable interdependence, the illusion of a separate, isolated, lonely self begins to dissolve. Like a mirage vanishing as you approach. You are not a lonely island, cast adrift. You are a wave, in the great, boundless ocean of being. Inseparable from the whole. Your apparent separation is the fundamental illusion that causes so much of our suffering. This realization, that the separate self is an illusion, naturally, beautifully leads us to our next exploration. It is the teaching of dependent origination. Pradatya samutpada. This beautiful, profound doctrine illuminates the very fabric of reality. It shows us that nothing, absolutely nothing, exists on its own. In isolation. Everything arises, in dependence on other factors. Every object, every person, every thought, every moment of experience, is a convergence. A miraculous, temporary convergence of countless causes and conditions. Seeing this truth doesn't just change how we think, it dissolves the very roots of alienation, of loneliness. And it gives rise to a deep and unshakable compassion. There is a teaching story, told of a solitary monk named Sila. Sila went to a remote, austere cave high in the mountains. His goal was to deepen his meditation, to find a peace that was entirely his own. Untouched, pure, untainted by the messiness, the noise, the complexity of the world. He believed that by isolating himself completely, by cutting off all contact, he could achieve a pristine, independent state of enlightenment. A peace that depended on nothing and no one. For his daily meal, he had a single, humble bowl of plain rice. A villager from the valley below, out of respect, would silently leave this simple offering at the mouth of his cave each morning. One day, as Sila prepared to eat his meal, he looked closely at the small, white grains in his worn wooden bowl. His old teacher's words echoed softly in his memory, "Look deeply at any one thing, and you will see the whole universe." Sila decided to try. He put down his spoon. He focused his entire, quiet attention on a single grain of rice. At first, he saw only a tiny, white object. A grain. But as his mind grew still, his perception deepened. His vision softened and expanded. He saw the farmer. He saw the man's back, bent under the hot sun. He saw the calluses on his hands from years of labor. He felt the man's hope as he planted the seed. He saw the rich, dark earth that had cradled and nourished that seed. Earth made of decomposed plants, of ancient rocks, of countless generations of life. He saw the monsoon rains that had watered the young shoot. Rains that had traveled thousands of miles as clouds, evaporated from a vast, salty ocean. He saw the sun, a fiery star millions of miles away, whose light and warmth were absolutely essential for the rice stalk to grow, to photosynthesize, to live. He saw the community of people who had harvested the rice with sickles. Those who had milled it, separating husk from grain. The person who had transported it, perhaps by cart, to the market. He saw the villager. The one who, with a simple, silent act of generosity, had cooked the rice and carried it up the steep path to his cave. He saw the potter who had crafted his simple clay bowl. The fire of the kiln that had hardened it. He continued looking, and the vision expanded further. The farmer could not have worked without the food he ate, which was grown by other farmers. The rain could not have formed without the ocean. The ocean could not exist without the rivers that fed it. And the rivers depended on the rain. A great, endless, sacred circle. His simple bowl of rice contained the sun, the clouds, the oceans, the earth, and the labor, the kindness, the very lives, of countless beings. It was a universe, in miniature. A hologram of the whole. In that moment of deep seeing, Sila's feeling of isolation shattered. Like thin ice under a warm sun. His entire quest for a separate, independent peace, suddenly seemed absurd. A misunderstanding of the highest order. He realized that even here, in his remote, silent cave, he was not alone. He had never been alone. He was deeply, inextricably, wonderfully connected to everything and everyone. His nourishment, his body, his very breath, were continuous gifts from the world he had tried so hard to leave behind. Tears of gratitude filled his eyes. He bowed deeply to the bowl of rice. not as a monk receiving alms, but as a man receiving the universe. His heart, once closed in a tight pursuit of solitary purity, broke open. Broke open with a profound, overwhelming sense of gratitude and connection to all life. Sila's awakening in the cave is the direct experience of dependent origination. This teaching is often summarized in a simple, powerful phrase: when this is, that is. When this is not, that is not. When this arises, that arises. When this ceases, that ceases. It means that nothing has a fixed, independent existence. Nothing stands alone. Everything is a temporary manifestation of an infinite, shimmering web of causes and conditions. Just like Sila's single grain of rice, you, in this very moment, are a convergence of the entire cosmos. The air you are breathing right now was once the breath of ancient trees, of dinosaurs, of other people. The water in your body was once part of a cloud, a glacier, a river that quenched the thirst of countless creatures. Your thoughts and the language you use to shape them are shaped by generations of ancestors, writers, thinkers, poets you have never met. The illusion of being a separate self is one of the primary sources of our suffering. It leads to feelings of profound loneliness, to competition, to jealousy, to fear. We feel that we are a fragile me against a vast, indifferent, sometimes threatening world. But dependent origination reveals this boundary to be a fiction. A story told by a mind that doesn't see the whole picture. There is no me separate from the world. You are a manifestation of the world. An expression of it. A unique, temporary gathering of the universe, able to experience itself. This understanding is the foundation of true, unconditional compassion. Karuna. When you see this interconnectedness, you realize, not as an idea, but as a felt truth, that the well-being of others is inseparable from your own. Their joy is your joy. Their suffering touches your own being. We are cells in the same body of life. When someone acts out of anger, or greed, or fear, you no longer see simply a bad person. Instead, you begin to see a being who is caught in a dense, painful web of causes and conditions. Perhaps a history of trauma, of neglect, of misunderstanding, of deep, unrecognized fear. Your judgment softens. It softens into a sincere wish for them to be free from that suffering. This is compassion. This does not mean you condone harmful actions. It means you can act, if necessary, from a place of clarity and compassionate protection, rather than from blind reactivity and hatred. You understand, at a fundamental level, that hurting another is, in a very real sense, hurting yourself. Damaging the web of which you are a part. This teaching also reveals the profound power of our own actions. Because everything is connected, every thought, every word, every deed, sends ripples out into the universe. A small, unseen act of kindness, a smile to a stranger, a patient word to a child, may seem insignificant. But its effects can travel through the web of life in ways you will never know, touching and influencing countless other lives, other moments. A single moment of mindful, peaceful presence within you can shift the energy not only in your own mind and body, but in the very space around you. You are not just a passive product of conditions. You are an active, a conscious, a loving co-creator of the world, in every single moment. To bring this deep wisdom of interconnectedness into your heart, you can practice what the monk Sila did. The art of deep looking. This isn't necessarily a formal, seated meditation. It is a way of engaging with the world, with new eyes. With wonder. Begin with your food. Before you take your next meal, pause. Just for a moment. Look at the food on your plate. And contemplate its journey to you. Think of the earth, the sun, the rain, the countless hands that planted, harvested, transported, prepared it. Silently, offer a thought of gratitude to all these interconnected elements that are now offering themselves to become you. This simple practice, done regularly, transforms the act of eating from a mechanical habit into a sacred communion with life. Extend this practice to the objects around you. Look at the chair you are sitting on, the clothes you are wearing. Contemplate the tree that became the wood, the cotton plant that became the thread. Think of the designers, the weavers, the factory workers, the truck drivers, the store clerks. See how this simple, ordinary object is a meeting point. A meeting point for a vast, global network of human energy, creativity, and effort. This practice dissolves the mundane, and reveals the miraculous, in the ordinary. The most challenging, and the most rewarding practice, is to apply this deep looking to people. Especially to those you find difficult. When you are feeling frustrated, hurt, or angry with someone, pause. Instead of focusing solely on their irritating behavior, on the story of how they wronged you, try to contemplate. Contemplate the unseen conditions that might have shaped them. What might their childhood have been like? What fears or insecurities might be driving their actions? What pains are they carrying that you cannot see? What pressures are they under, financial, social, emotional, that are invisible to you? This is not about excusing harmful behavior. It is about seeing their humanity more fully. It is an act of compassion that creates a space within you. A space from which you can respond with wisdom and clarity, instead of reacting with blind, knee-jerk anger. It helps you break the cycle of resentment. Finally, practice noticing the co-arising in your own experience. Notice how a certain worried thought, "I'm going to be late," can trigger a physical sensation, tightness in the chest. Notice how a lack of sleep affects your mood, your patience. Notice how a kind word from someone can change the entire chemistry of your body, bringing warmth and relaxation. See that your inner world is also a web of dependent origination. Thoughts give rise to feelings, which give rise to more thoughts, which influence bodily sensations. By observing these connections without judgment, you gain a profound, practical understanding. An understanding of how to skillfully cultivate the causes and conditions, for your own peace, for your own well-being. You learn what nourishes you, and what depletes you. And you can choose, more wisely. Let us pause now. Taking a full, quiet moment, to feel the truth of this connection. Feel the air entering your lungs, a gift from the vast atmosphere, from the green plants. Feel the ground supporting you, a gift from the ancient, patient earth. You are held. You are woven in. You are part of this magnificent, living web. If this sense of belonging, of inherent connection, brings a quiet peace to your heart, I invite you to subscribe to Monk's Temple. Let us continue to explore these quiet truths together. Having seen that we are not separate, but part of a vast, interconnected flow, we now arrive at a very practical, essential question. How do we navigate this flow? How do we live within it, with grace, with wisdom, with peace? The Buddha's answer is beautifully elegant. We walk the middle way. This is not a path of compromise. Not a path of mediocrity or just getting by. It is a dynamic, intelligent path of balance. A path that avoids the two extremes that cause so much of our suffering. The extreme of sensual indulgence, and the extreme of harsh self-mortification, of asceticism. It is the path between grasping and aversion. Between being too tight, and being too loose. The middle way is the art of living with wisdom and grace, finding a sacred, flexible center, in all aspects of our lives. The story of the middle way, is the story of the Buddha's own life. His own journey. Before his enlightenment, he lived as Prince Siddhartha. Surrounded by every imaginable luxury, every pleasure available. Beautiful palaces, fine clothes, exquisite food, constant entertainment. He was shielded, deliberately, from all sights of sickness, old age, and death. He lived in the extreme of sensual indulgence, chasing happiness through ever more refined pleasure. Yet, despite having everything the world said should bring happiness, he felt a deep, aching spiritual emptiness. A sense that something was profoundly missing. He realized that this kind of happiness was fragile. It was dependent on external conditions holding perfectly. And it could never lead to lasting peace. It was the loose string on the instrument of life, making no true, clear note. So he left the palace. And he swung to the opposite extreme. He became a wandering ascetic. He practiced severe self-denial. He fasted until his ribs showed like a row of sticks. He slept on beds of thorns. He held his breath for long, painful periods. He believed that by punishing the body, by subduing the flesh, he could liberate the spirit. For 6 long years, he pushed his body to the very brink of death. But enlightenment did not come. He only became weak, emaciated. His mind grew clouded, hazy with starvation. The tight string was about to snap. One day, collapsed by a river, close to death, he heard a musician on a passing boat teaching a student. The musician was tuning a sitar. The string, the musician said, his voice carrying across the water, must not be too tight, or it will snap. And it must not be too loose, or it will not make a sound. The perfect note is found in the middle. In that moment, Siddhartha had a profound, life-altering insight. His whole spiritual search had been like tuning that sitar. He had tried the loose string of indulgence. He had tried the tight string of extreme asceticism. Neither had worked. Neither had brought the clarity, the peace he sought. The path to awakening, he realized with sudden, perfect clarity, must lie in the middle. At that moment, a village girl named Sujata, seeing his emaciated, suffering state, was moved by compassion. She offered him a bowl of nourishing rice milk. His ascetic companions were horrified. They believed he was giving up, surrendering the spiritual path for mere comfort. But Siddhartha accepted it. He accepted the nourishment. The wholesome food restored his strength, calmed his tortured body, and cleared his starved, frantic mind. With this newfound balance, not too tight, not too loose, he sat beneath the Bodhi tree. He resolved not to move from that spot until he had found the ultimate truth. It was from this place of centered, balanced, collected awareness that he finally achieved enlightenment. The middle way was the way. The Buddha's own experience teaches us that the path to peace is not found in extremes. Indulgence makes the mind dull, lazy, and agitated, forever chasing the next pleasure, the next distraction. Harsh denial, harsh self-discipline, makes the mind tense, rigid, and resentful. It can often be a form of self-hatred, disguised as spiritual purity. The middle way is a path of kindness, of wisdom. It applies to every aspect of our lives. Consider our relationship with our bodies. One extreme is to neglect it, to feed it unhealthy food, to ignore its need for rest, to abuse it with substances. The other extreme is to become obsessed with it. To strive for an impossible physical perfection, to punish it with excessive, grim exercise, to bind it with restrictive, fear-based diets. The middle way is to treat the body with respect, as a precious vehicle for our journey. It means nourishing it with wholesome, enjoyable food, giving it the rest and sleep it needs, moving it with joy, with gratitude, not with aggression or punishment. It's about listening to the body's wisdom, its signals of hunger, fullness, fatigue, vitality. The same principle applies to our effort in life. In our work, our projects, our goals. Sometimes we push ourselves relentlessly. Driven by ambition, by fear, by a need to prove ourselves, until we burn out. We become exhausted, bitter, joyless. This is the tight string. Other times, we fall into lethargy, into procrastination. We avoid any form of challenge, any discomfort. We shrink from effort. This is the loose string. It makes no music. The middle way is about cultivating right effort. A balanced, sustainable, joyful energy. It's knowing when to strive, when to focus, when to apply disciplined effort, and knowing when to soften, when to rest, when to let go. It's working with diligence, but without frantic, anxious tension. And it's resting with intention, with true rejuvenation, but without guilt or laziness. This balance is not a fixed point. It is not a rule you can write down. It is a dynamic dance. A dance you learn to feel, from moment to moment. It's the art of tuning your own instrument, throughout the day. The middle way also guides our emotional life. We can swing between the extreme of emotional suppression, where we deny, numb, or bury our feelings, and the extreme of emotional indulgence, where we are completely swept away, overpowered by every mood, every reaction, believing every feeling to be absolute truth. The middle path is mindfulness. It is the capacity to be with our feelings, to allow joy, sadness, anger, fear, to be present, without either pushing them away violently, or being completely consumed, identified with them. We acknowledge the feeling. We allow it its space. And we watch it, with a calm, spacious, compassionate awareness. Just as we would watch the weather change in the sky. This is the art of being neither too tight nor too loose, with our own hearts. To walk the middle way is to become a master of the art of living. It is a path that requires constant, gentle awareness, and gentle self-correction. It is not about being perfect. It is about being aware, and making adjustments with kindness. The first practical step is to cultivate the quality of listening inward. Before you eat, pause and ask your body, what do I truly need for nourishment right now? Before you take on another task, another commitment, ask yourself, do I have the authentic energy for this? Or do I need rest? Before you speak in a heated conversation, ask your heart, what is the most balanced, the most kind, the most truthful response here? This inner listening is your compass for the middle way. It moves you from living by rigid, external rules, to responding with flexible, internal wisdom. Another practice is to become gently aware of your own patterns of extremism. Do you tend to be too hard on yourself? Too perfectionistic? Too critical? The tight mind? Or do you tend to be too lenient? Too permissive with your own avoidance? Too loose with your commitments? The loose mind. Simply notice these tendencies. Without judgment. Awareness itself is the first, most powerful step toward finding a more balanced approach. For example, if you notice a tendency toward harsh self-criticism, tight, you can consciously practice a moment of self-compassion. When the inner critic arises, you can soften. You can place a hand on your heart and say, kindly, it's okay. I am doing my best. This is hard right now. If you notice a tendency toward procrastination, toward avoidance, loose. You can practice taking one small, gentle, manageable step toward your goal. Break the task down. Make it so small that it feels easy. The point is not the size of the step, but the movement toward balance. Practice this with your spiritual or personal growth life as well. There may be days when meditation feels easy, blissful, clear. There will be other days when your mind is a restless monkey, and sitting for even 5 minutes feels like a struggle. The middle way is to show up consistently, with kindness. Don't grasp for the blissful states. Don't despair when the practice feels difficult. Simply offer your gentle, faithful attention. For 5 minutes, or for 50. The value is in the intention, in the gentle, balanced effort, not in the dramatic result. Not in achieving a certain state. Finally, remember the metaphor of the sitar string. Throughout your day, you can check in with yourself. You can ask, silently, am I too tight right now? Or am I too loose? This question can apply to your posture, to your breathing, to your grip on a steering wheel, to your attitude toward a work problem, to your tone of voice with a loved one. Often, you will find you are holding on too tightly. Your jaw is clenched. Your shoulders are up. Your mind is rigid. In that moment, you can consciously breathe out. You can soften. You can release the tension, even just 2%. You can invite ease. This constant, gentle retuning is the practice of the middle way. It is how we create beautiful, harmonious music with our lives. Let's pause and breathe into this sense of balance. Feel your breath, not forced, not shallow, but just right. Natural. Feel your body, not rigid, not slumped, but gracefully, dignifiedly present. This is the middle. This point of balance. It is not a dramatic place. It is a place of quiet peace, of potential. If finding this center, this calm point within the storm, speaks to you, I invite you to subscribe to Monk's Temple. And let us walk this balanced path together. From this place of inner balance, we can now open our hearts wide. The wisdom teachings of the path, the insights into reality, are often compared to one wing of a bird. And compassion is the other wing. Both are needed to fly, to truly be free. We now explore the beautiful, essential practice of metta. Loving kindness. This is not a sentimental feeling. It is not a passive wish for things to be nice. It is the active, intentional cultivation of unconditional goodwill. A radiant, warm-hearted friendliness that we can learn to extend, to ourselves, to others, to all beings, to life itself. Metta is a powerful antidote. An antidote to the poisons of anger, resentment, fear, and self-criticism. It is the practice of tending to the garden of the heart, so that kindness, naturally, can bloom. In a small, forest monastery, there was a monk named Vimal. He was diligent in his scriptural studies. disciplined in his meditation. But his heart was hard, brittle. He was quick to find fault in the other monks. One was too loud during chores. Another was too lazy in the garden. A third was too proud of his scholarly knowledge. Most of all, he was harsh, unrelentingly harsh, with himself. Every perceived mistake in his practice, a moment of drowsiness, a flicker of irritation, was met with a brutal internal barrage. You failure. You'll never get it. You're not cut out for this. His mind was a battlefield. And he was becoming exhausted, bitter, isolated. One day, his teacher, a gentle, old master with eyes that held endless patience, called him over. "Vimal," he said softly. "Your mind is like a parched, cracked field where nothing can grow. You water it only with the salt of judgment. From now on, you will put aside your other studies. Your only practice will be this." The master handed Vimal a small, smooth, river-worn stone. It fit perfectly in the palm of his hand. For 1 hour each day, the master instructed, you will walk the forest path. And as you walk, you will hold this stone. And you will repeat, out loud or in your mind, these words, "May I be happy. May I be at peace." That is all. Vimal was baffled. He thought the instruction was foolish, simplistic. How will repeating empty words, like a mantra, help me? He protested, a flicker of his old judgment arising. "I need more discipline, master. Not less. Deeper teachings." "The hardness in your heart, Vimal," the master replied, his voice like a soft breeze, "is your greatest indiscipline. Just do as I say." Reluctantly, skeptically, Vimal began the practice. For the first few days, he felt ridiculous. Walking in circles in the forest, muttering the phrases through clenched teeth. His mind screamed in protest. Happy. I am miserable. Peaceful. I am at war. The words felt like lies. Hollow. He felt no kindness. Only irritation, boredom, resistance. But he had promised his teacher. So he continued. Doggedly. After a week, something imperceptible began to shift. One day, as he walked, his eye caught movement. A small deer with its fawn. The mother deer was nuzzling her young, her movements infinitely gentle, infinitely tender. A feeling, faint but unmistakably warm, stirred in Vimal's chest. A softening. That day, when he repeated the phrase, "May I be happy," it felt slightly less like a lie. A tiny crack had appeared in the armor around his heart. He continued. He began, without trying, to notice small things. The way the sunlight filtered through the canopy, creating patterns of light and shadow on the path. The rich, damp scent of the earth after a morning rain. The sound of a distant, hidden stream. One day, he saw another monk. The one he'd judged as clumsy, stumble and drop a stack of firewood he was carrying. Logs scattered. Vimal's first, instant instinct was the old one, clumsy oaf. But then, a new thought arose. Unbidden. Quiet, but clear. May he be at ease, It was just a whisper. But it was there. From a place he didn't know he had. He walked over. Without a word, he began helping the monk gather the scattered wood. For the first time in months, he looked the other monk in the eyes. And offered a genuine, unforced smile. His main practice remained, for himself. May I be happy. May I be at peace. The phrases became smoother. Less forced. Less like a duty and more like a gentle, familiar rhythm. A lullaby for his own wounded spirit. He began to feel a sliver. A tiny sliver of the peace he was wishing for. He realized, with a shock of recognition, that for years, he had been treating himself like an enemy. A problem to be solved. This simple practice was the first time he had ever actively, deliberately, offered himself kindness. A drink of clear, fresh water for his parched inner field. The hardness in his heart, like a frozen river in the first thaw of spring, began to crack. To melt. To flow. One day, the master saw him. Vimal was sitting by the forest stream, not walking. The practice stone was resting on the bank beside him. He was simply watching the water flow over the rocks. His face was soft. Relaxed. His eyes, once hard and critical, were clear. Reflective. Peaceful. The master sat beside him. After a long silence, he said, "The field is no longer parched." Is it? Vimal turned. He looked at his teacher. And he bowed. Not a formal bow of obligation, but a bow of deep, quiet, grateful understanding. "No, Master," he said, his voice thick with an emotion that was not sadness. "The rain has finally come." Vimal's story illustrates the transformative, healing power of metta practice. It is a form of mental and heart training. It rewires our habitual, knee-jerk responses of anger, judgment, and fear. The Buddha taught that just as a farmer carefully cultivates the earth to grow nourishing crops, we can cultivate our hearts. We can till the soil of our own being, plant the seeds of wholesome states, and water them, to grow love, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Loving kindness is the foundational practice. It is the sincere, heartfelt wish for the well-being and happiness of a being, without any expectation of getting something in return. It is a love that is unconditional, boundless. And crucially, the practice begins with oneself. This is not selfishness. It is essential. We cannot offer to others what we do not have for ourselves. We cannot give from an empty cup. Many of us find it easier to feel kindness for others. For a child, for a suffering animal, for a friend in pain. But we live with a harsh, relentless inner critic. Directing loving kindness toward ourselves is often the most difficult step. And therefore, the most essential. It is a radical act of self-acceptance, of self-compassion. It heals the inner wounds, the core beliefs of unworthiness, that cause us to lash out at the world, to build walls, to live in fear. When we can hold ourselves, with all our flaws and fragilities, with tenderness, we naturally have more authentic patience, more genuine understanding, for others. The practice of metta then, gradually expands outward. Like ripples from a stone dropped in a still pond. After establishing a foundation of kindness for ourselves, we bring to mind a benefactor, or a dear friend. Someone for whom it is easy to feel natural warmth and affection. And we extend the same sincere wishes to them. May you be happy. May you be at peace. Then, we move to a neutral person. Someone we see regularly but have no strong feelings about. The checkout person at the grocery store. The mail carrier. A neighbor we only nod to. This step stretches our capacity for kindness, beyond our immediate, comfortable circle of loved ones. The most challenging step is to then extend loving kindness to a difficult person. Someone with whom we have conflict. Or someone who has hurt us. Someone for whom we feel resentment, anger, or dislike. This is not about condoning harmful actions. It is not about forcing ourselves to like them or to pretend everything is fine. It is a profound practice of letting go. Letting go of the poison of our own anger, for our own sake. It is recognizing their shared humanity. And wishing, from a safe distance within our own heart, for them to be free from the suffering, the confusion, the pain, that causes them to act in harmful ways. This practice breaks the chain of hatred. It liberates us. Finally, the practice expands. It expands to include all beings. In all directions. Near and far. Known and unknown. Humans, animals, all creatures. Without exception. This vast, boundless intention helps to dissolve the final, subtle barriers of us and them. It connects us to the entire web of life, with a heart of universal, inclusive love. Metta is not just a seated meditation. It is a way of life. It changes how we speak. It changes how we listen. It changes how we act in the world. To begin cultivating loving kindness, you don't need a special stone or a forest path. You only need a quiet moment, and a willing heart. Find a comfortable position. You can close your eyes if that feels good. Bring your awareness to your own being. Perhaps place a hand gently on your heart. A physical gesture of warmth and tenderness toward yourself. Then, silently and slowly, begin to repeat a few phrases of loving kindness. Traditional phrases are, "May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. Repeat these phrases gently, like a soft, inner lullaby. Don't worry if you don't feel a big, warm wave of emotion. The purpose is not to force a feeling. The purpose is to plant a seed, to set an intention. The intention itself is what matters. If your mind wanders, and it will, gently guide it back. If feelings of unworthiness, resistance, or cynicism arise, just notice them with kindness. You can even say to that resistant feeling, "May you also be at peace." Then return to the phrases. Simply continue offering these wishes to yourself, for a few minutes. After spending some time with yourself, you can bring to mind a good friend. Picture them. Feel their presence. Then shift the phrases to them. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. Feel the natural warmth you have for this person, and let it flow with the words. You can carry this practice into your daily life. This is informal metta. When you are standing in line, you can silently offer metta to the person in front of you. When you hear an ambulance siren, send wishes of safety and healing to all involved. When you read difficult news, extend wishes of peace to all those affected. This is a way of transforming moments of passive observation, or even frustration, into active compassion. It reclaims your heart. Be patient with this practice. It is like learning to play a beautiful instrument. It takes time. It takes gentle, consistent effort. Some days the heart will feel open, warm, expansive. Other days it may feel closed, resistant, tight. That's okay. That's part of the practice. Just show up. Water the seed of kindness each day. And trust that in time, your inner landscape will begin to bloom. It will bloom with a warmth, a resilience, a love, that can hold yourself, and the whole world, with unshakable, gentle care. As this warmth of loving kindness begins to permeate our being, it helps to melt away the layers of judgment and fear that have, for so long, obscured our true nature. This leads us to one of the most beautiful, encouraging, and hopeful teachings in the entire Buddhist tradition. The idea that our fundamental awareness, the very ground of our being, is inherently pure, luminous, and clear. The Buddha described the mind in its natural, original state as being like a clear, vast, open sky. And our thoughts, emotions, memories, habits, are like passing clouds. Weather patterns. No matter how dark the storm clouds get, no matter how fiercely the winds of emotion may blow, they can never stain the sky. They can never damage it. The sky remains untouched. Vast. Peaceful. Spacious. It is the unchanging background, against which all changing phenomena appear. This teaching offers a profound shift in perspective. It invites us not to a struggle, not to a war against our thoughts and feelings to create peace, but to the gentle work of uncovering, of remembering, the peace that is already here. that has always been here. Waiting patiently, beneath the temporary turbulence of our minds. There is a beloved teaching story, a parable from the East. It tells of a poor traveler. A man weary from a very long, difficult journey. He fell asleep by the roadside, exhausted. He was a man utterly defined by his poverty. His coat was a ragged patchwork of old scraps, thin and frayed, offering little protection from the cold. His stomach was a hollow, constant ache of hunger. His mind was a tangled, worried knot about where his next meal would come from, where he would sleep. He saw the world through a lens of lack, of scarcity. And he saw himself as its most unfortunate victim. While he slept, a dear friend of his, a friend who was now a wealthy, successful merchant, came by the same road. Seeing his old friend in such a state of obvious suffering, his heart was filled with immediate, deep pity. He wanted to help. To give his friend a new life. To end his suffering forever. The merchant possessed a single, priceless diamond. A jewel of unimaginable brilliance. Flawless. Radiant. It was worth a fortune. Not wanting to wake his friend and cause a fuss, or perhaps embarrass him with a grand gesture, the merchant had a gentle idea. With great care, and with even greater love, he took the diamond. He carefully, quietly, sewed it deep into the inner hem of the traveler's worn, tattered coat. He hid the treasure, in the last place the traveler would ever think to look. Then, with a silent blessing, the merchant continued on his way. The traveler awoke some time later. He stretched his aching limbs. He felt the familiar, gnawing pang of hunger. He was completely, utterly unaware of his new fortune. The diamond sewn into his rags. He continued his life of poverty, wandering from town to town, begging for scraps of food, pleading for a place to sleep in a barn or under a bridge. For years, he lived this way. His suffering was his constant companion. He cursed his fate. He envied the wealthy he saw in carriages. He never knew that he himself carried a treasure that could end all his troubles in an instant. The diamond, hidden and forgotten, traveled with him. Through dust and rain. Through cities and forests. Its brilliant light, completely obscured, unknown, by a thin, ragged layer of cloth. One day, many years later, he happened to cross paths with the same merchant friend. The merchant was shocked, stunned, to see him still living in such abject misery. "My friend!" The merchant cried out, his voice a mixture of astonishment and deep compassion. "What have you been doing all this time? Why are you still living like this? I gave you a priceless jewel years ago. It should have been more than enough to provide for you, for the rest of your life." The traveler looked at him, bewildered. His eyes were dull with resignation. "You gave me nothing," he mumbled, his voice flat with the tone of long suffering. A statement of fact, in his world. Without a word, the merchant knelt down. He took the frayed hem of the traveler's ragged coat, and with a small knife from his pocket, he carefully cut the threads he had sewn so long ago. The diamond fell into his palm. It caught the sunlight and exploded into 1,000 points of brilliant, dazzling, undeniable light. The traveler stared, speechless. His mind could not comprehend it at first. He had been a rich man all along, but he had been living as a pauper, a beggar, because he didn't know the treasure he possessed. This story is a perfect allegory for our own human situation. The Buddha taught that within each of us, sewn into the very fabric of our being, our awareness, is a Buddha nature. A nature that is as pure, brilliant, radiant, and indestructible as that diamond. It is our innate, boundless capacity for wisdom, for compassion, for clarity, for unshakable peace. This core of our being cannot be damaged by our past trauma. It cannot be stained by our mistakes. It cannot be diminished by our confusion, our fear, our anger. It is always there, whole, complete, untouched, waiting to be discovered. The problem is that, like the traveler, we don't know it. We are unaware. We identify with our worn and tattered coat, with our fleeting, anxious thoughts, with our painful, stormy emotions, with our self-critical, limiting stories. We believe the story that says, "I am an anxious person. I am not worthy of love. I am fundamentally broken. I am not enough." We live in a state of self-imposed spiritual poverty, completely oblivious to the immense, luminous wealth that lies within our own heart. The entire spiritual path, then, is not about becoming a better person. It is not about acquiring a diamond we don't have. It is the process of realizing the diamond is already ours. It has always been ours. It is the practice of turning our attention inward and recognizing the luminous, knowing, aware quality that has been present all along. Witnessing every single moment of our lives. This awareness is the silent witness. It is the part of you that is aware that you are thinking, but is not the thoughts themselves. It is the part of you that feels a wave of sadness wash through, but is not the sadness itself. It is the calm, unchanging presence that holds the ever-changing contents of your life. Recognizing this nature is profoundly healing. It is the ultimate act of self-love and self-acceptance. It means you don't have to fix yourself. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a treasure to be discovered, to be unveiled. The work is not to become a different person. The work is to gently, patiently remove the layers of mud, the layers of conditioning, fear, and mistaken identity that have hidden the brilliant light of your own heart. This is a deeply optimistic, empowering view of humanity. It suggests that our obscurations, what Buddhism calls the kleshas, greed, hatred, delusion, are like clouds. They are not a fundamental part of the sky. They are temporary. They can be dispelled. They can be seen through. Our true nature is the clear, open, boundless sky. To experience this luminous nature for yourself is to shift from a life of frantic doing to a life of restful being. The practice is subtle. It requires less effort and more trust. It is the art of recognizing the sky behind the clouds. One of the most direct ways to practice this is to pay attention to the spaces between things. Sit quietly. Bring your attention to your breath. But instead of focusing only on the in-breath and the out-breath, become particularly interested in the brief, natural pause. The pause that happens at the end of the exhalation, just before the next inhalation naturally begins. In that tiny, empty gap, there is a moment of pure stillness. No thought. No effort. Just quiet, alert, open presence. Try to rest your attention in that stillness. Even for a second. It is a doorway. A glimpse into the quiet, spacious nature of your own mind. You can also practice listening to the silence. Find a relatively quiet place and simply listen. At first, you will hear external sounds. A distant car. The hum of appliances. Bird song. These are the foreground sounds. But can you listen underneath them? Can you become aware of the vast field of silence that is holding all these sounds? That silence is not an empty void. It is a vibrant, full presence. It is the canvas upon which all sounds are painted. Your awareness is like that silence. It holds all the noise of your mind, without being disturbed by it, without being defined by it. Try to rest as that silent, listening presence. Another powerful practice is to gently ask yourself, throughout the day, who is aware, or what is aware right now, When you're seeing a tree, hearing a sound, thinking a thought, gently turn the question back on itself. What is this knowing quality? What is the awareness that is experiencing this? Don't look for an answer in words or concepts. The mind will want to say, I am aware. But then you can ask, and who is aware of that thought? Instead, try to feel into the direct experience of awareness itself. It has no color, no shape, no location. But it is undeniably, vividly present. It is the light by which you experience your entire life. By repeatedly, gently turning your attention to this inner light, this knowing presence, you begin to identify with it more than with the fleeting objects it illuminates. You begin to know yourself as the sky, not as the weather. Finally, practice trusting this underlying goodness. Especially when you feel at your worst. When you make a mistake, when you feel overwhelmed by a difficult emotion, instead of falling into the familiar pit of self-criticism. Gently remind yourself of the diamond in your coat. You can place a hand on your heart and say to yourself, softly, beneath this confusion, my nature is pure. Beneath this sadness, my heart is whole. Beneath this anger, my awareness is clear. This is not a form of positive thinking or denial. It is a profound act of trust. Trust in your own deepest, truest nature. It is remembering that no matter how worn and tattered the coat may seem, the jewel within remains perfectly, brilliantly, beautifully intact. Let us pause for a moment. Feel the quiet presence that is listening to these words. Not the ears, but the awareness behind the ears. This is your home ground. This is the source of peace. If resting in this quiet, spacious awareness feels like coming home, I invite you to subscribe to Monk's Temple. Let us continue to rediscover this inner treasure together. To uncover the luminous mind, to find the diamond in the coat, we need a clear and steady tool. A reliable method. That tool is mindfulness. While we have touched upon mindfulness throughout our journey, it is so central, so essential to the entire path, that it deserves its own deep, focused exploration. Mindfulness, or sati, is the art of paying attention. Paying attention to the present moment, intentionally, and without judgment. It is the simple, yet profoundly challenging, practice of waking up from the dream of our compulsive thinking, and arriving fully, authentically, in our lives as they are unfolding. Right here. Right now. It is often paired with its indispensable partner, concentration, or samadhi. Concentration is the ability to keep our attention stable, collected, steady, once we have placed it. Together, mindfulness and concentration are the two wings of a bird. They allow us to soar into the clear, open sky of our own awareness. Imagine a skilled archer. She is preparing to shoot an arrow at a distant target. The crowd around her is murmuring. The wind is blowing, gusting unpredictably. The memory of a previous miss tugs at the edge of her mind, whispering doubt. Yet, to succeed, to hit the mark, she must bring her entire being into this one, singular, present moment. Her breath must be deep and steady. Her body relaxed, yet firm, grounded. Her gaze soft, yet unwavering, focused. If her mind drifts to the past, to that previous miss, a subtle, unconscious tension will enter her arm, her shoulder. And the arrow will fly untrue. If she becomes anxious about the future, about the glory of hitting the target, or the shame of failing, her focus will blur, scatter. Her aim will be off. Her power, her skill, her very artistry, comes from her ability to gather all of her scattered energy. All the distractions, all the hopes, all the fears, and to channel it. To channel it into a single point, of profound, unshakable presence. In the moment of release, there is no archer. There is no target. There is no past. There is no future. There is only the flight of the arrow. Pure action. Pure presence. That state of collected, mindful, concentrated awareness is precisely what we are cultivating in Buddhist practice. It is the goal of meditation. Most of the time, our minds are the opposite of that archer. Our mental energy is scattered. It is fragmented in 1,000 different directions. We are driving our car, while mentally replaying an argument from yesterday. We are eating our lunch, while composing an email for tomorrow. We are in conversation with a loved one, nodding and smiling, while our mind is 1,000,000 miles away, lost in a labyrinth of worry about work, about money, about health. We are rarely, ever fully, where we are. This state of chronic distraction is a form of psychic sleepwalking. We are not truly living our lives. We are living in a mental simulation of them, a story about the past, a fantasy, or fear about the future. This is a primary source of our suffering. It robs us of the richness, the texture, the beauty of the present moment. And it fuels our anxiety, as our minds are constantly churning through problems that are either long over, or haven't even happened yet. Mindfulness is the gentle but firm practice of waking up from this dream. It is the act of bringing our attention back, again and again, from the scattered worlds of past and future, and anchoring it. Anchoring it in the direct, tangible, felt reality of the now. The breath. The sensation in the feet. The sound of the birds. The taste of the tea. The practice of mindfulness is the heart of Buddhist meditation. It is the training that allows us to see the workings of our own mind with compassionate clarity, rather than being helplessly tossed about by them. When you are mindful, you begin to see your thoughts as just thoughts, passing mental events, like clouds in the sky, not as absolute truths, not as direct commands you must obey. You can observe a thought of anger arise, and instead of immediately identifying with it, becoming it, and acting on it, you can simply note, gently, anger is here. This creates a crucial gap. A sacred pause. A space of awareness between the stimulus and your response. In that space, there is freedom. In that space, you can choose. You can choose to respond with wisdom, with kindness, rather than react with blind, conditioned habit. This is how we begin to untangle ourselves from our most destructive, automatic patterns. This is how we gain agency over our own lives. Mindfulness is also profoundly kind. The instruction is to pay attention, without judgment. This is so important. We are often our own harshest critics. When we try to meditate, our minds might say, "You're doing this wrong. You can't even sit still for a minute. You're a failure at this." A mindful response is to see that thought of self-criticism, and to meet it with gentleness, not with another layer of judgment. You simply note, judging is here. And then, with the kindness you would show a lost, confused puppy, you gently guide your attention back to your breath, back to the present. Every time you do this, every time you notice distraction and return with kindness, you are performing an act of profound self-compassion. You are reparenting your own mind. You are teaching it kindness. As mindfulness strengthens, so does concentration, samadhi. A mindful mind is a collected mind. Just as the archer gathers all her energy into one point, the meditator learns to gather their attention onto a single object. Most commonly, the breath. As the attention becomes more stable, less pulled by every passing thought, the monkey mind begins to calm down. It's like letting a jar of muddy water sit, completely undisturbed. The mud of our restless thoughts and agitating emotions gradually settles. And the water of the mind becomes transparent, clear, still. In this state of clear, calm, concentrated awareness, deep insights can arise. Spontaneously, we begin to see the truth of impermanence, of not-self, of interconnectedness, not as philosophical ideas we read in a book, but as visceral, lived realities. Direct experiences. This is why mindfulness and concentration are said to be the path to wisdom. They are not just relaxation techniques. They are the master tools we use to explore, to understand, and ultimately to liberate our own minds. The foundational practice for developing mindfulness and concentration is the mindfulness of breathing. Anapanasati. You can practice this anywhere. But it is helpful, especially in the beginning, to find a quiet place where you can sit, undisturbed, for a few minutes. Find a posture that embodies both dignity and ease. It could be on a cushion on the floor, cross-legged, or sitting upright in a chair, feet flat on the ground. The key is an upright spine, which fosters alertness, and a relaxed body, which fosters calm. You can close your eyes gently, or keep them softly open with a downward, unfocused gaze. Begin by taking 3 slow, deep, conscious breaths. And with each exhalation, consciously release any obvious physical or mental tension you are holding. A sigh of letting go. Then, let your breath return to its natural rhythm. Don't try to control it. Don't try to make it deeper or slower. Just let the body breathe itself. It knows how. Now, choose a spot to anchor your attention. A common, helpful spot is the tip of the nostrils, where you can feel the subtle, cool sensations of the air entering, and the slightly warmer sensations of the air leaving. Another good spot is the abdomen. Feeling the gentle rise on the in-breath, and the gentle fall on the out-breath. Choose one of these spots, and simply rest your attention there. Feel the raw, simple sensation of the breath. Moment by moment. Your mind will inevitably wander. It will drift into planning, remembering, worrying, fantasizing. This is not a mistake. This is not a failure. It is simply the nature of the untrained mind. It is what minds do. The moment you notice that your mind has wandered, is a moment of success. It is a moment of mindfulness. You have woken up. Gently, kindly, without any self-criticism, acknowledge where your mind went. Thinking. Or worrying. Or planning. And then, like a loving, patient parent guiding a child back home, gently escort your attention back to the sensations of the breath. This act, noticing the distraction and gently returning, is the core muscle-building exercise of the practice. It is the repetition. Every single time you bring your mind back, you are strengthening your capacity for both mindfulness and concentration. That's the whole practice. Simple, but not always easy. The key is the quality of your attitude. An attitude that is gentle, patient, curious, and infinitely kind to yourself. You can also bring mindfulness into your daily activities. This is the practice of informal mindfulness. When you are washing the dishes, try to just wash the dishes. Feel the warmth of the water on your hands. See the iridescent shimmer of the soap bubbles. Hear the sound of the plates clinking. Smell the scent of the soap. When you are walking from your car to your office, feel the sensation of your feet making contact with the ground. Notice the movement of your body through space. Feel the air on your skin. When you are listening to a loved one, give them the precious, rare gift of your full attention. Listen not just to their words, but to the feelings, the needs, the humanity behind their words. Let go of rehearsing your reply. Simply be present for them. These moments of informal practice are just as important as formal sitting meditation. They are how we weave presence, weave mindfulness, into the fabric of our entire life. Transforming the mundane into the sacred. Let us pause for a moment. Bring your awareness to your own breath, right now. Feel one full inhalation, and one full exhalation. You are here. You are present. This moment is a gift. If this simple, powerful act of returning to presence feels like a refuge to you, I invite you to subscribe to Monk's Temple. Let us continue to practice this gentle art of waking up together. As we become more present through mindfulness, we start to see our own patterns of holding on, with startling clarity. We see how we cling to ideas, to expectations, to identities, to pleasure, and sometimes, paradoxically, even to our own pain. This brings us to a pivotal practice on the path to peace. The wisdom of letting go. In Buddhism, this is often associated with the concept of nekkhamma, which can be translated as renunciation. But a more helpful, less intimidating translation might be non-attachment. This doesn't mean we must adopt a cold, joyless asceticism. Giving up all our possessions, our relationships, our joys. It points to a much deeper, more subtle, and profoundly liberating internal shift. It is the wise and compassionate release of our mental and emotional grip on things. Allowing life to flow, without our constant interference, management, and control. It is the discovery that true freedom is found not in getting more, but in needing less. There is a powerful, ancient parable that illustrates this principle perfectly. A man was traveling through a dangerous, trackless wilderness. He came to the bank of a wide, treacherous river. The water was deep, the current swift, teeming with unseen hazards. There was no bridge, no boat. He knew that to stay where he was would be fatal: wild animals, exposure. He had to cross. So, using his ingenuity and effort, he gathered materials. Logs, sturdy branches, tough vines. With great labor, blisters on his hands, he built a simple but effective raft. It was crude, but it floated. Pushing the raft into the water, paddling with a piece of wood, he used all his skill and strength to navigate the perilous currents. Finally, exhausted but triumphant, he arrived safely on the far shore. He was immensely relieved, overflowing with gratitude for his raft. It had saved his life. He stood on the far bank, a place of safety, of peace, and he looked back at the raft, bobbing gently in the shallows. He thought to himself, "This raft was so incredibly useful to me. It is a wonderful raft. I put so much work into it. It would be a shame, a terrible waste, to just leave it here. I might need it again later. For another river. Or as a shelter." And so, he hoisted the heavy, waterlogged, cumbersome raft onto his back. And he continued his journey inland. The other shore was a beautiful land. Open meadows, rolling green hills, fragrant forests. But the man could barely enjoy it. He struggled. He sweated under the immense, absurd weight of the raft. He couldn't walk freely through the beautiful fields of wildflowers, the raft dragged through them, crushing them. It got tangled in the low branches of the forest trees. He couldn't climb the hills to see the magnificent views, the raft was too heavy. The very thing that had once been his instrument of liberation, his salvation, had become a terrible burden. A self-imposed prison. The raft was now causing him suffering. The Buddha used this story to ask his disciples, what would a wise person do? A wise person, he explained, would understand the raft's purpose. They would feel deep gratitude. They would acknowledge its immense, life-saving value. And then, they would leave it. They would leave it at the riverbank. And they would continue their journey, light, unburdened, free. The raft, the Buddha explained, is like the teachings. Like the practices. Like our most cherished insights and spiritual experiences. They are skillful means. Designed for one purpose. To get us from the shore of suffering, to the shore of liberation, of peace. But they are not meant to be clung to. They are not meant to become rigid dogmas, or new, shinier, spiritual identities. Even the most profound teaching can become a burden, a point of contention, if we cling to it. If we make it into my view, my attainment. This story extends to everything in our lives. We build rafts of all kinds. Our accomplishments, our career title, our relationships, our political or religious beliefs, our self-image as a good person, a spiritual seeker, our spiritual practices themselves. These rafts can be very useful. For a time, they help us navigate certain stretches of river, certain challenges in life. But if we cling to them, if we make them into a fixed, non-negotiable part of our identity, they cease to be tools for liberation. They become heavy burdens. They prevent us from moving forward, from growing, from being open to new experiences, new understandings. The wisdom of letting go is the natural fruition of seeing impermanence and not self. If everything is changing, what is there to hold on to? If there is no solid, separate self, who is it that is doing the holding? Attachment is the attempt to make a solid, permanent home in a world that is fundamentally fluid, impermanent, and ever-changing. It is a recipe for constant struggle and disappointment. We become attached to specific outcomes, believing our happiness depends entirely on things going a certain, precise way. This attachment to outcomes makes us rigid, anxious, and fearful. We cannot flow with life. We become attached to people, loving them not with open hands, but with a clenched fist of possession, of control, of expectation, which ultimately suffocates the very love it seeks to protect. We become attached to our opinions and beliefs, turning them into fortresses, into identities, creating conflict with anyone who sees the world differently. We even, paradoxically, become attached to our own suffering. Our pain, our story of victimhood, our trauma, can become so familiar, so central to our sense of self, that the idea of letting go of that story feels terrifying. As if we would not know who we are without it. My anxiety, my depression, my past. These can become rafts we refuse to put down, even on the safe shore. Letting go is the practice of consciously, gently, and repeatedly loosening this clenched fist of the mind. It is not an act of cold indifference. It is not spiritual bypassing, pretending you don't care, to avoid feeling pain. On the contrary, letting go comes from a place of deep love and profound trust. You can love someone more fully and freely when you are not attached to them being a certain way to make you happy. You can engage with your work more creatively, more joyfully, when you are not desperately attached to a specific outcome, like a promotion or praise. You can hold your own beliefs more lightly, which allows you to listen to others with a genuinely open heart, to learn, to grow. Non-attachment is not about not caring. It is about caring so much that you are willing to release your own ego's agenda and allow life and other people to be as they are. It is a profound trust in the unfolding of the universe. A trust that you don't need to control everything to be safe, to be happy. This is especially important in our spiritual lives. Sometimes we can become attached to a particular meditation technique, to a teacher, or to a certain kind of blissful, peaceful experience. We might have a wonderful, deep meditation one day, and then spend weeks trying to replicate it, to get it back. This creates nothing but frustration, tension, and striving. It turns practice into a grim project of acquisition. The raft parable reminds us, hold your practices lightly. They are tools. Use them skillfully, with dedication. But don't turn them into another thing to possess, another trophy for the ego. The goal is not to become a good meditator. The goal is to be free. How do we practice this subtle and profound art of letting go in our daily lives? It begins with noticing the feeling of clinging. Attachment has a distinct physical and mental signature. It feels like a tightening, a tension, a clenching in the gut or the heart, a sense of holding your breath, of holding on for dear life, a mental no to what is happening. When you notice this feeling arising in response to a situation, a change of plans, a criticism, a loss, you can begin the practice. One powerful technique is a simple releasing visualization. When you feel yourself clinging to a worry, a resentment, an expectation, close your eyes for a moment if you can. Imagine placing that thought, that feeling, into the palm of your open hand. Look at it with kindness. Acknowledge its presence. Ah, here is worry. Then, in your mind's eye, visualize yourself gently opening your fingers, and letting the wind carry it away. Or imagine placing it on a leaf in a calm stream, and watching it float peacefully out of sight. Repeat this as many times as you need. It's a way of training the mind in the physical sensation and the emotional intention of release. Journaling can also be a powerful tool for working with deeper attachments. You can make a simple list, things I notice I am attached to. They might be big, my identity as a successful professional. Or small, my need for the house to be perfectly tidy. Then, for each item, write about the fear that lies beneath the attachment. What am I afraid will happen if I let go of this? Seeing the underlying fear clearly often diminishes its power. Then write about what freedom might feel like on the other side of that attachment. If I weren't so attached to being seen as successful, I might feel lighter, more playful, less afraid of failure. This process brings conscious, compassionate awareness to our unconscious patterns of holding on. Perhaps the most accessible, continuous practice is simply to work with your breath. The breath is a perfect, living model of letting go. Every moment, you take in a breath, and then you must let it go, to make space for the next one. You cannot hold on to an inhalation. You would die. When you are feeling tight, stressed, attached, bring your full focus to your out-breath. With each exhalation, consciously practice letting go. You can even say the word release or let go silently to yourself as you breathe out. Let each out-breath be a small letting go of control. A small surrender to the present moment. A small act of trust in life. This gentle, repeated practice of release woven into the moments of your day, is how you learn to unburden yourself from the heavy raft and walk freely, lightly, and peacefully on the other shore. Now, as we near the end of our journey together, we venture into a teaching that is often considered the deepest, the most profound in the entire Buddhist tradition. It is the wisdom of emptiness. Shunyata. The word emptiness can sound frightening or nihilistic, as if it means that nothing matters, that nothing exists, that life is meaningless. But this is a complete, fundamental misunderstanding. In Buddhism, emptiness does not mean non-existence. It means empty of a separate, independent, or intrinsic self. It is the ultimate expression, the logical conclusion, of the interconnectedness we have already explored. It is the radical truth that everything is what it is, only because of everything else. This insight is the final solvent. It dissolves our most stubborn attachments, our deepest fears, revealing a reality that is vibrant, miraculous, interdependent, and fundamentally free. There is a story of a young monk, Anatta, who was deeply troubled, even frightened, by the teaching of emptiness. He would sit and listen to the discourses, and his logical mind would rebel. How can my hand be empty, he would think, holding it up, staring at it. I can see it. I can feel it. It is solid. It is here. He saw the world as a collection of separate, solid things. And the teaching of emptiness felt like a denial of his own direct experience. His teacher, a wise old nun named Prajna, saw his struggle. One day, she handed him a simple, unglazed clay cup from her kitchen. "Tell me about this cup," she said. Anatta described it. "It is made of clay. It is hard. It has a handle. It holds water." Prajna smiled. "But where," she asked, her eyes twinkling, "is the cup-ness? Let us look for it." "Is the clay the cup?" she asked. "No," Anatta said. "The clay was once just earth, dug from the ground. Is the shape the cup?" She continued. "The shape was given by the potter's hands, and the potter's mind," Anatta replied, thinking. "Is the water in it the cup?" "No, that is separate." She then guided him in a deep contemplation. "This cup," she said softly, "is made entirely of non-cup elements. To be here, it needs the clay. The clay needed the earth and the water. The water needed the clouds and the rain. The potter needed food to have the strength to work. Food that came from the sun and the soil of distant fields. The kiln needed firewood from trees. This cup is full of the entire universe. It is empty of being just a cup, separate from everything else. Its existence is a miracle of interdependence." Anatta looked at the cup with new eyes. He had seen an object. She was showing him a process. A relationship. A node in a vast net. Prajna then pointed to the great ocean visible from her hermitage. A wave was cresting, white foam against the blue. "Look at that wave," she said. "It has a beginning, a middle, an end. It has a shape, a height, a power. It is clearly a wave. But can you find anything in that wave that is not the ocean? The wave is empty of a separate self. It is nothing more, and nothing less, than the ocean waving. It arises from the ocean, and it will dissolve back into the ocean. It is because it is empty of a separate self that it can be full of all the water in the sea." In that instant, Ananda understood. He looked down at his own hand again. He saw not a solid, separate object, but a temporary manifestation of the universe. He saw his parents, his ancestors in his hand. He saw the sun, the air, the water, all the food he had ever eaten. His hand was empty of being, just his hand. And because of that, it was full of all of life. The fear he felt around the word emptiness dissolved. Dissolved into a feeling of profound connection and awe. The wisdom of emptiness, shunyata, is the ultimate antidote to our delusion of separateness. We walk through the world perceiving a solid me and a collection of solid others and things. This perception is the root of clinging, as we try to possess these separate things, and the root of aversion, as we try to push them away. Emptiness reveals that these solid lines we draw are illusions, created by the conceptual, labeling mind. In reality, everything co-arises in a seamless, unified, interdependent field. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form, states the Heart Sutra, one of the most famous Buddhist texts. This means that the form of the wave is inextricably linked to its emptiness of being separate from the ocean. The form of the cup is utterly dependent on its emptiness of a solitary existence. They are not two different things. They are two aspects of the same, single reality. When we understand this, not just intellectually, but as a felt sense, our relationship with life changes dramatically. We stop clinging so tightly to things, because we see they have no independent, graspable essence. A painful emotion arises. Instead of seeing it as a solid, terrible thing that is happening to me, we can see it as a temporary wave of energy, arising from countless causes and conditions, empty of any solid, permanent core. Seeing its emptiness allows us to be with it, without being overwhelmed, without being identified with it. A moment of great joy arises. Instead of desperately trying to hold on to it, to make it permanent, we can savor its beauty, knowing that it, too, is a transient wave, a gift of the interdependent universe. We can love it, without needing to possess it. This is not a dry, intellectual understanding. It is a felt sense of liberation. When we see the emptiness of all phenomena, we become fearless. What is there to be afraid of losing, when nothing was ever a separate, possessible thing in the first place? What fixed, fragile self is there to be threatened? Seeing emptiness allows us to dance with life, to engage with it fully. with an open, loving, spacious heart. We are no longer a frightened, small ego trying to defend its tiny, imaginary territory. We become the open space, the vast sky, in which the whole, beautiful, tragic, joyful dance of life unfolds. To touch this wisdom, we practice by deconstructing our experience. This is not as complicated as it sounds. It is a subtle shift in perception. Take a moment. Look at any object in the room with you right now. A lamp. A book. A table. Look at it. And then begin to mentally, gently, break it down into its non-object parts. If it's a wooden table, see the tree. See the forest. See the sunlight that fed the tree, the rain that watered it, the soil that nourished it. See the logger, the sawmill worker, the carpenter, the truck driver, the store clerk. See the tools they used, and the people who made those tools. Continue this process, until you see that the solid table is actually a meeting point. A convergence, for the entire cosmos. It is empty of being an independent table. This practice can be applied to anything. Contemplate your own body. See that it is made of non-body elements. The food you ate, plants, animals, sunlight, soil. The water you drank, clouds, rivers, oceans. The air you breathe, the atmosphere, plants. The genetic information from your parents, and their parents, back through time. See that your body is not yours in the sense of a possession, but a temporary loan from the universe. A gathering of elements. This is not to diminish its preciousness, but to enhance it. To see the miracle of it. You can also apply this to your emotions. When a strong feeling like anger arises, instead of identifying with it, I am angry, investigate it. Where do you feel it in your body? Does it have a solid center? Or is it a collection of changing sensations? Heat in the chest. Tension in the jaw. A rush of energy. Notice the thoughts that are feeding it. This is unfair. They shouldn't have done that. See that the anger is not a single, solid thing. It is a process. A confluence of thoughts, sensations, memories, arising due to causes and conditions. When you see it this way, you deconstruct its solidity. You see its emptiness. And it can no longer command you, control you, as if it were a king. The ultimate practice of seeing emptiness is simply to rest in open awareness. Without labeling, without conceptualizing. When you let go of all the stories, the judgments, the names, what remains is a direct, vibrant, luminous reality. In this state, you don't think about emptiness. You are the spacious, open awareness, in which the empty, interdependent nature of reality reveals itself. Moment by moment. This understanding of reality, where everything is interconnected, and every action has a consequence, leads us to the crucial, often misunderstood teaching of karma. Karma is not a system of cosmic reward and punishment, meted out by an external judge. It is simply the natural law of cause and effect, applied to our intentions and actions. It is the truth that our actions, motivated by our intentions, shape our world. They create our experience. The word karma literally means action. But the Buddha clarified that the most important element is satana, intention. It is the will, the volition, the motivation behind the action, that plants the seed. This is an incredibly empowering teaching. It means we are not helpless victims of fate, of circumstance, of our past. In every moment, we have the power to shape our future, by cultivating skillful, wholesome intentions in the present. Consider the story of two farmers. Brothers who lived side by side in the same valley. Both were good, hard-working men. One year, a terrible, unexpected storm swept through the valley just before the harvest. It brought hail and fierce winds. It completely flattened their rice paddies. Their entire year's work was destroyed in a single night. The exact same external event happened to both of them. The first brother, overwhelmed by the loss, fell into despair. His mind was filled with thoughts of anger, blame, self-pity. "This is a curse," he shouted at the sky. "Why does this always happen to me? The world is unjust." He grew bitter, resentful. He snapped at his wife and children. He refused help from his neighbors, whom he now viewed with suspicion and envy. His intention was rooted in aversion and self-pity. He was planting seeds of isolation, of anger, of future suffering for himself and his family. The second brother, looking out at the same devastation, also felt a deep, genuine wave of sadness and loss. He allowed himself to feel the grief. But after the initial shock, his intention shifted. He thought, "This has happened. I cannot change the past. What can I do now?" His intention was rooted in acceptance and wisdom. He gathered his family. "We have lost our crop," he said, "but we still have each other. We have our health, our strength." He went to his neighbors, not with envy, but with an open heart. "We have all suffered from this storm," he said. "Let us work together. Let's help each other clear the fields, share what seeds we have left, prepare for the next planting. Together, we are stronger." His intention was rooted in compassion and connection. He was planting seeds of community, of resilience, of mutual support, and of future happiness. The external event was identical. But the karma, the intentional action and its resulting experience, was completely different. One brother created a personal hell of bitterness. The other created a community of support, and found meaning even in disaster. The teaching of karma is not fatalistic. It is the ultimate expression of free will. It places the responsibility for the quality of our lives squarely in our own hands. Or more accurately, in our own hearts and minds. The Buddha taught that intentions rooted in the three poisons, greed, hatred, and delusion, lead to actions that cause suffering for ourselves and others. Greed/craving when we act from a place of I want more, of clinging, of insatiable desire, we create dissatisfaction, envy, stress. Hatred/aversion when we act from a place of anger, ill will, resentment, we create conflict, pain, separation. Delusion/ignorance when we act from a place of confusion, not seeing things as they are, e.g., not seeing impermanence, not self, we make unskillful choices that lead to regret, to more confusion. Conversely, intentions rooted in their opposites, generosity, loving-kindness, and wisdom, lead to actions that create happiness, peace, and freedom. Generosity when we act from a place of giving, of openness, of non-clinging, we create connection, joy, a sense of abundance. Loving-kindness when we act from a place of friendliness, compassion, goodwill, we create harmony, safety, warmth. Wisdom. When we act from a place of clarity, seeing the true nature of things, we make skillful choices that lead to freedom, to peace. This is not a metaphysical belief system. You can observe this law in action, in your own life, every single day. Notice how you feel after lashing out at someone in anger. Tense, agitated, separate. Notice how you feel after offering a genuine word of kindness, or a helping hand. Warm, connected, peaceful. The results are immediate and tangible. The most beautiful aspect of this teaching is that it is never too late. Your past karma has created your present moment. But your present karma, your intention right now, is creating your future. You are not defined. You are not condemned by your past actions. In this very moment, you have the power to plant a new seed. You can choose to cultivate a kind thought. You can choose to perform a small, unseen act of generosity. You can choose to respond to a difficult situation with patience, instead of reactivity. Each of these choices is a powerful karmic act. It changes the trajectory of your life. It empowers us to stop being passive victims of our circumstances, and to become the conscious, loving architects of our own experience. To work skillfully with karma, we must bring mindfulness to our intentions. A powerful practice is to begin each day with intention setting. Before you get out of bed, or as you have your first quiet moment, take just 30 seconds. Set a simple, wholesome intention for the day. Today, I will practice patience. Today, I will listen with an open heart. Today, I will be kind to myself. Setting a conscious intention at the start of the day acts like a rudder for your mind. It helps guide your actions in a skillful direction. Throughout the day, practice mindful pauses. Before you speak. Before you send that email. Before you react to a trigger. Take one conscious breath. In that pause, check in with your intention. Is what I am about to say or do coming from a place of kindness and clarity? Or from a place of fear, anger, or ego? This small gap can be the difference between creating good karma and creating painful karma. At the end of the day, you can practice a gentle karma review. This is not about judging yourself or feeling guilty. It is a compassionate self-reflection. Ask yourself, what were the intentions behind my major actions today? When was I able to act from a place of kindness? When did I get caught in reactivity? The purpose is simply to learn. To understand your own patterns more deeply, so you can make wiser choices tomorrow. Finally, practice the karma of generosity, *Dana*. This doesn't have to be about money. You can be generous with your time, with your listening, with a smile, with a word of encouragement. Every act of giving, no matter how small, when done with a pure intention of wishing another well, is a powerful way to generate positive karma. It breaks the spell of the self-centered mind, and connects us to the joy of our shared humanity. By becoming mindful of our intentions, we transform our life. We transform it from a series of random, confusing happenings, into a conscious, meaningful, beautiful path of awakening. And where does this path lead? What is the final shore that the raft was built to reach? In Buddhism, the ultimate goal, the fruition of the entire path, is called nirvana. This is another word that is widely, profoundly misunderstood. Nirvana is not a heaven-like paradise that we go to after we die. It is a state of being. A state of mind and heart, that is available, that is possible, right here. In this very life. The word literally means, to extinguish or to blow out. What is extinguished? The fires. The fires of greed, of hatred, of delusion. It is the complete and utter cessation of suffering, and its causes. It is the mind's final, unshakable liberation. It is the experience of profound, lasting peace, that comes from seeing reality, exactly as it is. Imagine you have been carrying a massive, heavy boulder on your back. For your entire life. You have carried it for so long, that you have forgotten what it feels like to be without it. You assume that the aching in your shoulders, the strain in your legs, the stooped posture, is just the normal state of being. The human condition. The weight dictates how you walk, where you can go, how you see the world. Every movement is an effort. Then one day, through great practice and insight, you finally understand. You understand that you can put the boulder down. You lean over, and with a great, shuddering sigh of release, you let it roll off your back. It settles onto the earth with a thud. In that moment, what do you feel? An indescribable lightness. A freedom you never knew was possible. A profound sense of ease, of relief. The air feels different. The light looks brighter. You can stand up straight for the first time. You can run. You can dance. You can live. That feeling of relief. Of unburdening. Of final release, that is a metaphor for nirvana. It is not an escape from life. It is the beginning of truly living. free from the crushing, invisible weight of our mental burdens, our cravings, our aversions, our delusions. Nirvana is the natural result of seeing the truths we have been exploring. When you truly, deeply realize the truth of impermanence, your clinging to fleeting pleasures is extinguished. When you truly, deeply realize the truth of not-self, the ego's desperate projects of self-preservation and self-aggrandizement are extinguished. When you truly, deeply realize the truth of dukkha and its cause, craving, your relentless thirst, your craving, is extinguished. The extinguishing of these fires is nirvana. It is not a state of blissful numbness. It is not a blank void. It is, according to the texts, a state of supreme happiness. But it is a happiness that is not dependent on conditions. It is the steady, radiant peace of a mind that is no longer at war with itself. No longer at war with reality. A person who has realized nirvana still lives in the world. They still experience pleasant and unpleasant sensations. They may feel the heat of the sun or the pain of a stubbed toe. But these experiences no longer create mental suffering. The second arrow, the judgment, the story, the resistance, the why me, is gone. They meet all of life's experiences with a vast, open, compassionate equanimity. They are like a deep ocean. The surface may have waves, the joys and sorrows of life. But the depths remain profoundly, utterly, still. This state is characterized by boundless compassion. Because when one's own suffering has ceased, the heart naturally, effortlessly turns toward the suffering of all other beings who are still caught in the fire. There is no us and them. Only a wish for all to be free. You cannot achieve nirvana through willpower. Just as you cannot force a flower to bloom by pulling on its petals. It is the natural unfolding. The natural fruit that occurs when you diligently, patiently, kindly, cultivate the path. The practice for realizing nirvana is the path itself. It is everything we have discussed. Mindfulness, compassion, seeing impermanence, letting go, understanding interconnectedness, cultivating wise intention. Therefore, the final practice is simply this: to continue. To continue to practice mindfulness. Bringing your attention back to the present moment, again and again. To continue to practice compassion. Watering the seeds of kindness for yourself and others. To continue to investigate the nature of your experience. Seeing the truth of impermanence, of not-self. To continue to practice letting go. Loosening your grip on all the things that cause you stress. Each mindful breath. Each kind thought. Each moment of seeing clearly is a step on the path. There is no magic formula. The path is the goal. Trust. Trust that by simply tending to your own heart and mind, with gentle, persistent, loving care, you are creating the causes and conditions for your own liberation. For your own peace. The final practice, is to rest in the possibility of this freedom. To know, in your heart of hearts, that a state of peace beyond all understanding is not just a myth, not just a philosopher's dream. It is the inherent potential of your own mind. Let this knowledge be a source of inspiration, a source of courage on your journey. You are not just trying to feel a little better. You are on a noble path. A path that leads to the complete and total end of suffering. Now, let us conclude our journey with a few timeless Zen stories. Stories that point directly to the heart of the matter, beyond concepts, beyond words. The story of Yamauka Tezshu and the pipe. Yamauka Tezshu was a young, intellectually gifted student of Zen. He had spent years studying Buddhist philosophy, developing what he believed was a sophisticated, deep understanding of the most profound teachings. He was particularly drawn to concepts like emptiness and non-duality. He felt confident that his grasp of these ideas demonstrated significant spiritual attainment. Having heard of the renowned Master Dokuan's reputation, Yamauka decided to visit him. He wanted to demonstrate his understanding, to have a lofty discussion, to perhaps receive acknowledgement of his philosophical prowess. When granted an audience, he found Master Dokuan sitting quietly, smoking his long bamboo pipe. Yamauka began with authority. "Master, I have come to discuss the fundamental nature of reality. The mind, the Buddha, sentient beings, ultimately, they do not exist. All phenomena are empty. There is no realization to achieve, because there is no one to achieve it and nothing to be realized. There is no delusion, no sage, no ordinary person. There is no teacher, no student, because all such distinctions are mere illusions." He presented this elaborate, flawless philosophical exposition. Throughout it, Master Dokuan continued smoking, silent. When Yamauka finished, he waited, expecting praise or deep dialogue. Master Dokuan said nothing. He simply took his bamboo pipe and struck Yamauka hard on the head. Yamauka jumped up, furious, his philosophical composure gone. "Why did you hit me?" he shouted, rubbing his head. Master Dokuan looked at him, a slight smile on his face. "If nothing exists," he said calmly, "where did this anger come from?" Yamauka stood speechless. All his conceptual understanding proved useless when faced with the direct reality of pain and his own immediate, unphilosophical reaction. The story of Chiyono and the broken pail. Chiyono was a devoted Zen student who meditated for years with fierce determination, yet enlightenment eluded her. One evening, she was carrying an old wooden water pail back to her quarters. The pail was bound with bamboo strips, old and worn. As she walked, she became mesmerized by the reflection of the full moon, perfect and bright, in the water within her pail. She carried this moon reflection carefully. Suddenly, the bamboo binding broke. The bottom fell out. All the water rushed to the ground. And the reflection of the moon vanished instantly. In that moment, seeing the moon disappear as the water was lost, Chiyono was enlightened. She realized what she had been seeking was like that reflected moon. It had never been separate, never an object to be carried. It was always present, just obscured. When the container of her striving mind broke, the truth was revealed. She wrote a poem. This way and that way. I tried to keep the pail together, hoping the weak bamboo would never break. Suddenly the bottom fell out. No more water. No more moon in the water. Asterisk emptiness in my hand. Asterisk. The story of the priceless diamond. A poor traveler, defined by his poverty, slept by the road. A wealthy friend, wishing to help him without fuss, secretly sewed a priceless diamond into the lining of the traveler's ragged coat. The traveler awoke, unaware of his fortune. For years, he continued his life of begging and misery, cursing his fate. Years later, he met the friend again, who was shocked he was still destitute. I gave you a diamond, he cried. The traveler insisted he'd been given nothing. The friend took the coat, cut the threads, and the diamond fell into his hand, blazing in the sunlight. The traveler stared, stunned. He had been rich all along, but lived as a pauper because he didn't know the treasure he possessed. The Zen master who told this story concluded, "Your life is like that diamond. You can see yourself as having little value, some value, or you can understand that you are absolutely priceless. The choice depends on the quality of perception you bring to looking at your own life." Our journey through these teachings now comes to a gentle close. We have walked a long way together. From the simple acknowledgement of life's friction, to the profound peace of letting go. We have seen that our suffering comes not from life itself, but from our resistance to its flow. We have discovered that beneath the passing clouds of our thoughts and emotions, the sky of our awareness is always clear, always untouched. We have learned to tune the strings of our heart, finding the middle way of balance, and to water the garden of our mind with the unconditional warmth of loving kindness. We have seen that we are not isolated islands, but waves in a single, magnificent ocean of being. Interdependent, empty of separateness, full of the universe. Now, let us bring these threads together, in a final moment of practice. A moment of integration, of rest. Find a comfortable position. Gently close your eyes. Take a deep breath in, and a long, slow, complete breath out. Let your body feel heavy, supported, at rest. Bring your awareness to the feeling of the air touching your nostrils. Just for this moment, let this simple sensation be your anchor, your home. If thoughts arise, see them as clouds, drifting through the vast, open, peaceful sky of your mind. You are the sky, not the clouds. Let them come, and let them go. Now, feel into your heart space, the center of your chest. Imagine a small, warm, gentle light there. A soft glow. With every in-breath. Imagine this light growing a little brighter. a little warmer. With every out-breath, imagine this warmth radiating. Radiating through your entire body. Through your arms, your legs, your head, your toes. This is the light of your own innate goodness. Your Buddha nature. Your diamond. It has always been here. You are simply remembering it. Resting in it. Simply rest in this warmth. In this gentle, loving presence. You are safe. You are whole. You are at peace. There is nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. Just this. Just here. Just now. Thank you for walking this path with me. Rest well.